I've got this 330 GTC at the shop that I'm putting together. It's getting close. I'm getting the carpets done. You know, just install the carpets, put a lot of the interior together, and just waiting for a couple pieces. I've got, this is the spare steering wheel I have. I'm refinishing the one that that belongs to this car, so that's that I'm working on. But one of the things I noticed, you know, when a car goes away for paint, it gets it can sit for a while and things just stop working. Electrics just kind of get a little wonky and they just need to be gone through. So one of the things I noticed on this car is when I turn on the ignition, there's the fuel sender wasn't working. So, you know, trying to figure out what's going on, or at least the fuel gauge wasn't working. What happens is the fuel tank is in the back here, and there's a couple little connections that you always have to check. You know, there's ground, which I'm going to secure a little bit better because I checked it just to make sure I had decent ground. And then and there's two connectors usually on the fuel sender. I can tell that just from the dirt and everything, it hasn't been pulled. I mean, this gas tank, you know, who knows how old the sender is. But what I usually do first is I find a decent ground, and I get the ignition key on, and I'm going to check the connectors. So basically it's two wires. It gets voltage and it gets so let's see, I have the key on. So what I can do is I can disconnect this, and then what I try to do, I put one connector, this is the ground line, this cable, this black wire I have connected to ground, and I can touch this, and that will give you either the low fuel light, because what happens is when it goes to low, one side goes to ground and it will turn on the light bulb, and the other one will basically give full no resistance. So you're giving it full because it gets voltage, and what I'm doing is when I give it ground, it has no resistance whatsoever, and it makes the gauge go to full. And so that is what I check to make sure that the gauge is good. So that way it narrows it down. So it's either two things. It's either, well, there's three things. It's voltage going through the wiring system, it's the gauge could be having a problem, or it's the sender. So you just have to have those three things that you have to check. So I already know that there's voltage coming through, and then when I touch the two wires, I'm either getting the low fuel light or the full tilt or full on the gauge. So I know that the gauge is working. So the next step is to pull the sender. So from the looks of it, this fuel sender has to come out. So first thing I want to do is vacuum it out. See what if these things will come loose. They feel loose, so that's good. Sometimes these screws need a little bit more just care in getting them out. These look like they're coming out pretty easily, so I don't have to like put a lot of downward pressure on them. But as you can see, they're little dome head screws, and they strip really easily. So usually what I do is I just give it a quick tap with a hammer, and that'll kind of loosen it up a little bit before you try to turn them. But sometimes penetrating oil, a little bit of that will help. But everybody has their different techniques in getting these things out, but you just got to know that they sometimes can seize in here. All right, so the cables were connected backwards. Now that it's either I installed it wrong, but when I look at it, it's marked the wrong way. So there's a G here and there's an I, and it's actually not the same way here. Got everything back together, ground's in place, and now when I go to the car, turn on the ignition, we show a quarter tank. So that's about where it's supposed to be. And so now we got the fuel sender working. So on to the next little item on this car that we have to fix. But that's fixed, and moving on.